I'm Dominick, 25, living in Cleveland. A month ago, I woke up in Metro Health Medical Center with no memory of the last 2 years. My wife's mother, Linda, was suddenly in charge of everything in my finances, my home, even my phone. She says she's just helping until I recover, but the bank account shows $42,500 missing. And my wife? She looks at me like I'm a stranger. I need to find out what happened before I lose more than my memory. Cleveland, Ohio, 6:48 a.m. First thing I remember is the smell of antiseptic and the faint hum of a heart monitor. White ceiling. My own reflection in the metal of a Roman four-pole. I had no idea where I was or who I was. A nurse leaned over me. "Dominick, can you hear me?" I croaked out, "Yeah, where am I?" "Metro Health Medical Center. You were in an accident." Accident. The word echoed. I tried to recall nothing. Just a blank wall where my life should have been. 2 hours later, a tall woman in a beige coat swept into the room. She had perfect hair and an expensive leather bag. "Dominick," she said warmly, "thank God you're awake." She hugged me like family, but my mind was still foggy. "I'm sorry," I muttered. "Do I know you?" Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes tightened. "I'm Linda, your mother-in-law." She told me I'd been married to her daughter, Jenna, for 2 years. That we lived in a small townhouse in Tremont. That I'd been hit by a delivery van late at night. I didn't remember any of it. When Jenna finally arrived, she looked cautious. She hugged me, but her hands trembled. "It's okay," she whispered. "We'll get through this." The doctors said memory loss could be temporary. They recommended rest. But Linda insisted I couldn't go back to work yet, said she'd handle things. 2 days later, she showed up with a folder of documents. "I just signed these, Dominick. That'll make things easier." My signature felt clumsy, like I was copying someone else's handwriting. At home, the townhouse felt alien. Photographs of me and Jenna on the fridge of me with shorter hair, in clothes I didn't recognize. A stack of unopened bills on the counter. By the end of the week, I tried to check our joint bank account online. The balance made my stomach drop, $3,742. "Jenna," I asked, "where's the rest of it? There should be more, right?" She froze. "Linda's been managing things for safety." At night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Linda's voice in my head, a calm, control, too perfect. Something was off. The next morning, I found my phone in a drawer. Half the contacts were missing. And in the Notes app, a single line remained. "Don't trust her." My pulse spiked. I didn't know who wrote it, or who her was, but I had a feeling I was about to find out. Cleveland 10:12 a.m. 2 days later, the first weekend home, Linda decided we were all having brunch as a family. She arrived exactly at 10:00 a.m., carrying 2 bags of groceries and a bottle of imported olive oil like she owned the place. "Dominick," she said, breezing past me into the kitchen, "you should focus on your recovery. Let me handle the real-world stress." Her tone made it sound like I was a child. Jenna trailed behind her mother, avoiding my eyes. She wore an oversized sweater, sleeves pulled over her hands the way she used to do when she was nervous. Except how did I know that if I didn't remember? At the table, Linda started reminiscing about moments I couldn't recall. "Remember your first Christmas together? You burned the roast, but we laughed and ordered pizza." She chuckled like it was a cherished memory. I forced a smile, pretending. Then she slid an envelope across the table. "You need to sign this, Dominick. It's a temporary power of attorney, just until your memory is back." My stomach tightened. "Why would I need that?" She sighed as if I were being unreasonable. "Because bills need to be paid, and Jen is too emotional to handle it all. I'll make sure your mortgage, utilities, and other obligations are covered." I glanced at Jenna, but she kept looking down at her coffee. "It's probably fine," she murmured. I signed it, but only because I felt cornered. Later, while they were in the kitchen, I stepped into the bedroom to brief. I noticed a half-open drawer. Inside, a pile of unopened mail or letters from First Federal Bank addressed to me. Statements. I tore one open. The account activity made my blood run cold. 6/12 withdrawal $15,000. 6/20 withdrawal $20,000. 6/25 transfer $7,500. All to an account I didn't recognize. Before I could process it, Linda's voice floated down the hall. "Dominick, everything okay?" I shoved the papers back and mumbled, "Yeah." That night, Jenna finally spoke when Linda left. "Dominick, I need you to trust me. Mom, she's just trying to help. She saved us when..." She stopped, biting her lip. "When what?" I pressed. Her eyes filled with something I couldn't read, fear, maybe guilt. "I can't talk about it yet." I lay awake until 3:00 a.m., staring at the ceiling. That's when I remembered the note in my phone. Don't trust her. I realized it might not be about Linda. It might be about Jenna. And if that was true, I was living with the wrong person entirely. Cleveland 7:23 p.m. 3 days later, by midweek, I couldn't stop thinking about those bank withdrawals. I decided to test Linda. She came over that evening with takeout from me, Bella, in Little Italy. As we unpacked pasta and breadsticks, I casually said, I called the bank today, they're mailing me a new statement. Her hand froze mid-air. Why would you do that? Because I want to understand our finances. I kept my voice calm, but my pulse was pounding. Her smile returned too quick. Dominick, stress will only make recovery harder. I've got the handle. Jenna jumped in, her voice sharp. Just let her help, okay? I felt like a guest in my own marriage. After dinner, while they cleaned up, I slipped outside into the cold Cleveland air. Across the street then flickered, casting long shadows. I dialed the bank from my old phone. The wret's voice came through. Mr. Marino, those withdrawals were authorized from your account via a signed form last month. My account? Who signed it? There was a pause. Your wife, Jenna Marino. She's listed as co-owner. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles ached. When I got back inside, Jenna was scrolling her phone on the couch, Linda sipping wine. I studied Jenna's face. She didn't look guilty. She looked resigned. I tried to keep my voice light. Hey, remember that note in my phone? Don't trust her. Do you know who wrote it? She flinched. Linda didn't even glance up. No, Jenna said too quickly. Probably something old, from work. That night, while she showered, I went through her nightstand. Beneath a stack of magazines, I found a small black notebook. Inside, messy handwriting, half-finished sentences. One page stopped me cold. He doesn't remember the deal. Mom says not to tell him. If he finds out about the $42,500, everything's over. I barely had time to process before Jenna's voice came from the doorway. What are you doing? She was standing there in a towel, dripping water onto the carpet, eyes locked on the notebook in my hands. Her expression was no longer nervous. It was cold, calculated, and I knew this wasn't about helping me recover. It was about making sure I didn't remember at all. Cleveland, 11:57 a.m., the following Friday. I couldn't stop thinking about that notebook. The words $42,500 and everything's over circled in my mind like vultures. I had to know what deal Jenna and Linda were hiding. I left the townhouse under the pretense of grocery shopping. The air was crisp, carrying a faint scent of the Cuyahoga River. I parked near the Tremont Community Library and logged into the bank website from a public computer. The same withdrawals were there of $15,000, $20,000, $7,000, $500, all gone, all untraceable to any ordinary expense. Then I noticed something strange. Each transfer was made to the same name. A name I didn't recognize, Marcus Ellery. A quick search revealed a small real estate company that had gone bankrupt 2 years ago. But my heart sank when I noticed the address listed on the account of the same street, the same building, the very townhouse I supposedly owned with Jenna. I drove back to the townhouse, hand shaking, mind racing. I needed answers. Inside, Linda was on the phone, waving one hand like a conductor. Jenna was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup. I could no longer pretend ignorance. Jenna, I said, voice low, controlled. Who is Marcus Ellery? Her spoon froze mid-stir. I don't know what you mean. I slammed the black notebook on the counter. Pages flipped open. The handwriting screamed the truth. They had stolen from me, manipulating my memory, lost throughout my life savings. Every dollar from the joined account had gone. Linda stepped forward, calm, almost amused. Dominick, you really don't remember, do you? That's unfortunate. What is this? I demanded. $42,500, all gone. What did you do with it? She leaned in, voice soft but deadly. We invested it. Your name was used because, well, it's easier when the son-in-law doesn't remember anything. I felt dizzy. Betrayal coursed through me hotter than any fever. But the worst part was Jenna. She didn't fight back, didn't apologize. She just stood there, watching me. Then, a new detail clicked: the dates. Each withdrawal was during a day I wasn't aware, days I spent in the hospital. They had planned it all, every step, using my vulnerability to line their pockets. I couldn't breathe. My memory, my trust, my marriage all manipulated. And then I saw it, a single, folded document hidden under the counter. My signature on a mortgage refinance, dated the day I left the hospital. My townhouse technically theirs now. I clenched my fists. My wife, my own life gone through deceit I couldn't yet fully grasp. And then I realized something even more terrifying. If I stayed silent, they'd erase the rest of my past. Everything I had, would vanish. I had to act. But I didn't yet know whom I could trust. Cleveland, 8:45 p.m. That same night, I couldn't sleep. The townhouse felt like a cage. Every framed photo, every souvenir, every trace of my so-called life now seemed like a lie meticulously staged by Linda and Jenna. I decided to confront Jenna first. She was in the living room, curled up on the couch with her laptop. The glow of the screen highlighted her tense expression. Jenna, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. We need to talk now. She froze, then closed the laptop slowly. Dominick, please, Don't make a scene. Mom just wants to protect you. Everything's for your recovery. I shook my head. Protect me? You stole $42,500, manipulated my memory, and even refinanced our house behind my back. That's not protection. That's a prison. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know what else to do, Mom. She said if you remembered, everything would fall apart. I didn't want to lose you. Lose me? I echoed, anger boiling. You already did, and you're complicit. Before she could answer, Linda's heels clicked down the hallway. Dominick, she said, voice syrupy, I think it's time you rested. You've been through so much. I noticed a file in her hand of the same size as the one with the mysterious transfers. My instinct screamed danger. I lunged forward. Linda, where's the rest of the money? Her smile was calm, almost smug. There, Dominick, the rest. I invested in a special project. It's secure and profitable. All under your name. I felt my stomach twist. Under my name? That's fraud. Technically, yes, she admitted, but consider it a safety measure. You wouldn't have handled it. Janice sobbed quietly, but Linda's eyes never wavered. Then came the final blow. Linda tossed a sealed envelope onto the coffee table. This explains everything if you can handle the truth. I tore it open. Inside were bank statements, contracts, and photos. Photos of me signing documents I had no memory of, shaking hands with a man I didn't know, Marcus Ellery. Suddenly, it all clicked. Linda and Jenna had orchestrated a double life for me. I hadn't been married solely for love. My memory loss had been exploited to secure a financial scheme that spanned months, maybe years. I stared at Jenna. Why didn't you ever tell me? Her voice trembled. I thought it was the only way to keep us together. I laughed bitterly. Together? You mean enslaved to your mother's manipulations? And then I realized it wasn't just the money. Every day I spent thinking I was recovering, I had been living in a web of lies. I had to decide to expose them now or risk losing everything permanently. Cleveland 2:16 a.m. the next morning. Sleep was impossible. I paced the townhouse, heart hammering, replaying every conversation, every fake memory, every stolen dollar. I realized the fight wasn't just about money, it was about reclaiming my identity. I grabbed my phone and called Detective Harper, a family friend who had once helped Jenna with a minor legal issue. His voice was groggy but attentive. Dominick, what's wrong? I think my mother-in-law and wife have been manipulating me financially and mentally. Thousands gone. Documents I never signed and I lost memory because of it. I need help. There was silence. Then, stay put. I'll come over. I hung up, my stomach twisting with fear and anticipation. Harper arrived in under 30 minutes. He was a tall man, in his late 40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I showed him the black notebook, the statements, the envelope with contracts. Harper's jaw tightened. This isn't just manipulation, he said. This is organized fraud, maybe extortion. They've been using your vulnerability, memory loss, to cover it up. I nodded. I need to confront them tonight. Harper's voice was firm. Not alone. We waited until Linda and Jenna were asleep. Then we moved quietly into the living room. The documents were laid out on the coffee table like a trap. I stepped into the hallway. Jenna stared, eyes wide. Dominick, what are you doing? I locked eyes with her. The truth ends tonight. Harper followed with a camera and recording device. I held the statements up. All of this are these withdrawals, the fake accounts, the refinancing, it's your work, and I have proof. Linda's voice was calm, almost theatrical. Dominick, you really think you remember anything? You're confused, fragile. I swallowed hard. I remember enough, and I've got witnesses now. The final blow came when Harper slid open the envelope I hadn't opened fully, a signed confession from Jenna, written weeks ago, admitting her part in the scheme and naming Linda as the mastermind. She had anticipated my memory recovery and the possibility I might investigate. Jenna gasped, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know what else to do. Linda's face twisted with fury, but there was no escape. Harper spoke calmly, it's over, police are on their way. And as I stood there, trembling, a strange mix of relief and disbelief washed over me. I had my life back and my identity, my finances, and the truth. But even as I exhaled, a thought hit me. The betrayal had left scars far deeper than any stolen money could ever measure. Cleveland 9:02 a.m. the following Monday. The police arrived just as the first rays of sunlight spilled through the Tremont Townhouse windows. Linda didn't resist, but her smug calm had vanished, replaced with a brittle panic. Jenna sat on the couch, face buried in her hands, crying uncontrollably. Detective Harper guided me through the scene. Dominick, you did the right thing. They can't manipulate you anymore. I nodded, but the hollow ache in my chest told a different story. 2 years of my life stolen, rewritten, manipulated, couldn't be fully returned with money or legal papers. The officers led Linda and Jenna away. I watched through the living room window as they were placed in separate patrol cars. Even from a distance, Linda's eyes met mine, burning with fury. I realized she had underestimated me, the son-in-law she thought she could control. Later, sitting alone in the quiet townhouse, I opened my laptop. Every file, Every bank statement, every email of communication between Linda and the mysterious Marcus Ellery was saved. I made copies for the authorities, but also for myself, a record of survival, of memory reclaim. Then, I noticed an email from Jana, sent before her arrest. Subject line, I'm sorry. Dominick. I don't expect forgiveness. I was trapped by mom, by greed, by fear. I never wanted to hurt you. Please live your life without me. I stared at the words heart heavy. Betrayal and love tangled together in a knot I couldn't untangle. I stepped out onto the balcony. Cleveland spread below me, streets glowing in the morning light. I inhaled deeply, the crisp air filling my lungs. The city was alive, messy, chaotic, real, and so was I. My memory might return fully, or it might always be patchy. But one thing was certain, I would never allow anyone to manipulate my life again. Weeks later, the news reported a full investigation, $42,500 recovered. Criminal charges filed against Linda Marino, her daughter implicated as an accomplice. Cleveland shook its head at the scandal, but I felt a cold satisfaction. Justice, delayed by deceit, had finally arrived, and as I packed my few belongings for a fresh start at the small apartment in Ohio City, I felt something I hadn't in weeks: clarity, strength, freedom. Because sometimes, the most shocking betrayal can become the catalyst for reclaiming everything you thought was lost, even yourself.